Welcome everyone to another TechSoup Canada webinar. So the topic for today's event is reducing tax time administrative burden for Canadian charities. So if you're a Canadian charity and you have to submit taxes at some point, which is, by the way, all of you, then this is just the right event for you because we know that many nonprofit teams are juggling donor engagement, tax receipt, and data. So in this session, Jessica Rain from GiveWise Foundation Canada is going to explore some practical ways that charities can simplify their giving experience and reduce the admin backend because we want to spend more time accepting and thanking for money and less time adminning for that money. You're going to learn how small changes to donation processes and giving options and automation can reduce staff workload while improving the donor experience. And this session is also going to explore how enabling asset-based giving, such as securities and donor-advised funds, can support larger gifts without increasing administrative complexity. To guide us through all of that, I'm delighted here to have Jessica Rain, who is the Manager of Partnerships and Growth at GiveWise Foundation Canada. They're a national donor-advised fund platform that helps donors and charities give more effectively. Jessica works closely with charities across Canada to simplify their giving process, unlock non-cash gifts such as securities, and reduce administrative burden to nonprofit teams. With that, I'm going to get out of the way and pass the baton over to Jessica.
Thanks for inviting me back again to chat. And thank everyone for being here today. I work with GiveWise Foundation Canada, and my role specifically, I work with the charities. Our overall mission is really to grow generosity, and we work with donors, financial advisors, and charities, and my focus is charities. I have a lot of conversations with charities every day, and some of the things that we hear across the country is really, how do we reduce administrative burden? Our teams are stretched. How do we do this without adding more to our plates? So that's what I want to speak to you about today. So I'm going to show you how you can do that and still grow generosity. So let's start here. So I'm sure many of you all can relate to this picture since you're in the room and you signed up for this discussion. At some point, you've probably experienced what the feeling is around this picture of overwhelmness, being overwhelmed by administrative work. And it's different because it's not just feeling busy, but it's when things feel like they're piling up and you still have a lot of other things of your core position to do, and it feels hard to keep up with that. So no matter what your role is, whether you're in fundraising, finance, operations, you've likely felt this at some point. And the reality is it doesn't feel good. In the charity sector and the financial sector, there are a few times each year that this really shows up. And depending on, other than your charity's focus or your core programming, these times are usually around giving season and tax season. So when it's giving season, it's more external pressures and overwhelmness, trying to get gifts in, but at tax season, it's internal. It's all those internal processes that you're getting prepared for. And so we want to focus on that today and what kind of solutions there are to support you, because this is a generous time. Both tax time and giving season is a generous time. So how do you get ahead of that? So I want to talk about teams. And I have some stats from Imagine Canada. Over half of charities in Canada don't have any paid staff at all. The majority of Canadian charities operate with fewer than 5 employees. And we have a stat from the Association of Fundraising Professionals, AFP, says many charities have 1 to 2 people responsible for fundraising, often alongside other roles. This really paints the picture of the reality of charities and how small and powerful teams are. Most organizations are doing a lot of different things. Their roles are you're balancing a lot of equally important work, and it all matters, right? Focusing on fundraising and finance specifically, you're focused on your donors. So When you're doing fundraising, you're really stewarding relationships, you're cultivating, you're engaging, you're making sure people feel connected to the work, which is deep work. And then you're also trying to be creative, right? You're thinking of campaign, messaging, marketing, new ideas. Alongside that, you may also be doing typically administrative work, reporting, compliance, things like that. And so you have to make sure your data is accurate, records are updated, that you're actually gathering insights from what's happening so that you can share with folks. So that comprises a large part of your role, but you're also doing probably a lot of other things that we see on that list. And then on for the financial side, those in the finance sector are roles. You're processing gifts, reconciliation, compliance, all the things that need to be done properly and on time, typically have an urgency around it. And what tends to happen is administrative work shows up all at once. It quietly builds. It might take an hour here or there, but during specific times, it really piles up and can take on a significant part of your week, which leaves you to not have as much time for the other things that you're either hired for or do very well. So, how do we help in that way, right? Because you wanna be doing things that operating from your strengths if you're not in a particular role, right? So, this is what we see as well, is that tax season amplifies all of that. So, you may have all of this a part of your role or the task that you have to fulfill, but tax season actually amplifies this. It intensifies. So, from the conversations we've had with both charities and donors, tax season is consistently one of the most stressful times of year. And there's a few reasons for that we're seeing now, especially. So, growth. Many organizations are seeing an increasing giving of different types of ways of giving, right? Which is amazing. But we often see that systems and processes haven't caught up with that growth and the ways that donors are preferring to give. So instead of feeling like momentum, it starts to feel like pressure for teams. And then I would say the other one is really around receipt requests. So while charities aren't always required to issue receipts, especially automatically, what happens during tax season is a flood of requests come in all at once, and this can really overwhelm small teams. And so now your team who already has a full plate is trying to manually track, update, issue receipts on top of everything else. And then between that, you have all this donor communication as well, right? You're communicating back and forth with donors, follow-ups, questions, clarification, you name it. So donors want to make sure everything's in one place for their taxes, and that adds another layer of urgency for folks. So it's already a busy environment. Tax season makes it even more busy and higher pressure. So let's see where this actually shows up in your day to day. So I just have an image here, just breaking down where admin work shows up. So it shows up in things like manual tax receipting, entering donor data more than once often, creating and sending out receipts, tracking those receipts and trying to make sure nothing gets missed, managing multiple systems that don't always speak to each other. I know that's a large one right now with folks really exploring other ways to accept gifts. And none of these things feel huge by themselves, but they add up when you are really trying to navigate all of these different tasks and you're using multiple channels or infrastructures. And this is where it becomes a burden or challenging for your team. And especially, we got to back to the small teams, especially for the smaller teams, because you may not have that dedicated role for doing this, right? So it becomes a significant time investment and not always the best use of time or resources. So the hidden cost of admin. So this is where we start to see the real cost of the administrative burden because it's not just about the internal workflows. It doesn't just stay behind the scenes. It actually starts to impact some of the most important parts of the organization. So your team's capacity to take on or do particular work, especially the work that is front facing to the donors, right? It impacts the experience your donors have. So the donor experience, which is very important. It affects how quickly and consistently you're able to steward those relationships. And over time, it can actually impact your ability to grow fundraising and make it sustainable, right? So you really want to reduce the administrative work as best as you can. Folks, especially in fundraising, can focus on that donor relationship piece, which takes time and they're deep relationships, right? We don't take those for granted. So, before we go any further, I am curious. I want us to do a bit of a poll before we go any further. So, I'm going to launch that poll right now. Okay. So, let me share the results with you all. So, if you see, it's interesting because 26% had answered donor follow ups and communications, donor data entry and CRM updates, and also managing multiple systems. So, it's not a surprise, but it's interesting that they were all equal, which is good. Yeah, that takes up a lot of time, especially if I'm speaking to folks who are fundraisers in the room. That could be a big drain for folks. So, especially on top of doing all of the other tasks you have to do. So, let me just stop sharing that. Thank you for doing that. So, the funny thing is, this isn't a tax problem. And I'm sure you all know that. This is not a tax problem. It's actually an infrastructure problem. So most teams think what they need is better processes for tax time, but overall, there needs to be better workflow and there needs to be a better system that's actually designed for how people are giving today. Across the board, when I'm speaking to charities, I'm still amazed at some of the complexities around the systems that they are using, the multiple systems that they're using, and how fragmented it is and how much busy work it creates for them. So it's really about finding that infrastructure or that system that can support all of your giving needs and making it easy on the back end for your team. And so that's what we're going to get into now. All right. So many charities right now, they're still using systems that weren't designed for how people are giving today. So this is yesterday's giving. This is how people used to give. Very linear. It's a simple model, right? Cash or check. And today we can say, okay, instead of that being listed cash, we'll say credit card or check, or even throw in an e-transfer, right? Very linear. And those systems work. And a lot of folks in the charity sector have CRMs and great integrations when it comes to credit card giving, right? Making it very seamless. And if credit card was the only way folks were giving, then simple, that would be great. But giving doesn't look like this anymore, right? Giving has changed tremendously over the years. And now we're looking at it in a whole different way. And even though folks used to give in other methods before, it's increased. Donors want more flexibility. Donors are giving more from their wealth. It's really changed the landscape. So this is the new world of complexity that you're looking at right now. It's become way more complex. Donors are no longer just giving with credit card, cash, or check. They're giving through securities. That's increased significantly. There's a number of reports throughout the sector that you've probably heard by now of security donations have been increasing since 2018. I think 5 times more donations through securities, gifts of securities. And then you have donor advised funds, which is the fastest growing giving tool. You have real estate, you have cryptocurrency, and then you have a lot of third-party platforms. You can think about Canada Helps, which is doing great work in the sector to make giving and receiving easily. So there are a lot of different ways to give now, and this is what is actually making it very complicated for teams and their systems behind the scene. So instead of this a simple linear process, you now have multiple entry points, right? Multiple pathways and multiple systems involved. And the challenge is that most organizations haven't really updated their infrastructure to match this reality. And so we want to look at actual giving behavior and model that and ensure that we have systems in place to make it easy for the donor, but also for you on the back end. So I wanted to show you what giving looked like for GiveWise in 2025. So when we look at how donors actually gave to GiveWise through their donor advised fund, when we look at total contribution volume, it's about 72% is coming from securities. There's 23% from EFT and checks, and only 5% from credit cards. That's big. That is a huge number that shows it only aligns with what we're seeing with the stats throughout the sector, that security giving through gifts of securities is increasing more and more. So while many organizations are optimized and experienced for credit card giving, you see that credit card's only 5%, right? And there is definitely a place for credit card because credit card is convenient, it's great for recurring gifts, but it's not going to unlock those larger gifts because of the fees, right? You want to be able to accept gifts and make it easy for donors to give in the ways that they want to. And bigger gifts come from wealth, right? You want to be ensure that you have that, which means if you don't, there is a disconnect. And you want to be set up so that you can receive the gifts that donors want to give. So, if this is the reality, we know that security gifts are on the rise. We know that credit card is there, but it is not the main way that folks are donating. You want to make sure you have that set. So, how do we respond to this now? We have three kind of principles or recommendations. Number one, you want to simplify giving. So, the first principle, really, you want to make it easy for donors. If it's not easy, donors won't use it. And this is something we see all the time from talking to donors and charities. Options may technically exist on your website, but if they're hard to find, they're unclear, they feel complicated, they simply don't get used. So simplifying isn't about adding more, it's really about making the right things visible and easy to act on your website so that you have that pathway and that pathway is clear. The second principle is centralized giving. Every additional system can create friction, and you need to know that is the reality. At GiveWise, we always say we don't compete with charities. We are here to complement. So we're here to be a support. We are here to be an additional or in other ways to give. So charities will use GiveWise infrastructure alongside other infrastructures. But the reality still remains that if you do have multiple systems or channels, there's going to be more work associated with that. So you really have to find that solution and weigh the pros and cons to it. Because if you have disconnected systems, that just means there's more reaching out, there's more manual work. Centralizing the process really reduces that load. So keep that in mind. What we often see is giving happening across different platforms, and behind the scenes, the teams are trying to piece everything together. So try and track your gifts in one place if you can, and ensure that there's receipting as well. And then lastly, the third principle is to relax where possible. And this is through automation because there's certain parts of the process that simply don't need to be manual anymore. And I think the credit card being linked to the CRM and the integration there is a great example of it. I think many charities that we speak to have mastered that piece of things. It's now getting on board with other ways to give and making that on the back end very easy for your team. If you can ensure that you can automate tax receipting, donation tracking, reporting, reconciliation. When those pieces are automated, it saves you time and definitely creates a lot more space for your team instead of all the paperwork. So, what does that look like after? So, do this before and after. You have multiple systems, manual receipts, donor confusion, delayed stewardship. You can go to after figuring out what infrastructure can support you, it should bring you to a place where you have one intake point, or maybe you have a few, but they're well done. Automated receipting, clear donor pathways, and real-time visibility. So we like to use this image. This is an image of, and we're going to talk about it a little more, but this is where we come into play. This is where GiveWise can support charities at its core. We're creating a single place where donors can give in multiple ways, whether that's securities, donor advised funds, bank transfers, credit card, other types of gifts, you name it. It can all flow through one centralized experience to your charity. So instead of building and managing all of these pathways individually, you have one system. Simple, right? And so this is just not, it's not just based on theory. It really is an approach, something that we have developed over time and through a lot of conversations and insights. We didn't come up with this in isolation. It's been shaped through these conversations and understanding where friction has shown up for charities. And this is where time has been lost. Teams needed more support. And what we consistently hear is making giving pathways visible is important, right? Reducing the burden of processing and compliance on the back end and providing that real-time visibility so that charities can see donors' data when a donor has given or initiated a gift, and they can keep that relationship going right away because they have the data at their fingertips. So these are things that are very important and that we've been worked on and are continuing to work on and optimize. I want to quickly show you what that looks like. What does that look like on our end when we talk about an infrastructure that can support you and reduce admin burden? And so if you look at my screen right now, we're going to pretend that this is your charity page. This is a page that we've developed based on the conversations that we had and really showing and encouraging charities that this is the best pathway for donors to give seamlessly through your website, right? You want to make it easy, and this is a great way to do it. So you have your donate button, of course, you go to donate. Once you go to donate, it should bring you to a page, a ways to give page. At the top, you see the credit card because credit card is still a very good method of giving because of course, it's convenient for folks, right? You can get small gifts very quickly. You can get recurring gifts. But where the larger gifts are going to be is below securities, donor advised fund transfers, right? Gifts in will, flow through shares, real estate. You want to have all of these options available for your donors. But you also, the reason why a lot of charities don't have these options available is because they're unaware of how to process them. And they also are challenged by having to do the receipting, the compliance, all of those things. The processing of these gifts is a real strain on their team. So when you have an infrastructure that can take care of that, like we can, it makes it easy to accept and say yes to donors who want to give in these ways. So I just want to quickly show you, I won't go through the whole process, but just quickly show you. So if I'm a donor, I'm on your website. I want to give securities. So I say give now. All right. There we go. This pops up. I can actually scroll through and decide how I want to give. I can scroll through here and decide how I would like to give. I can even plan a future gift, right? So if I do securities, let's say right here, you put in your email and say whether your donor works with a financial advisor. If they select that, then it goes directly to the financial advisor to release the fund. And if they select this, they actually get to fill out a form, which they will then send to the financial institution that's currently holding their security so they can release it to GiveWise to give to your organization. So all this is done right here. So that is the donor side of things. And I just want to quickly show you, whoops, sorry. Let me quickly show you what it looks like on the charity side of things. And so on the charity side of things, this is what we call this the charity portal. This is where you get to see your dashboard. You get to see all of your gifts. So if I say view more here, you get to see the amounts your donor gave, your donor name, email address, purpose of gift designation. So you can set up gift designations on the back end and the date. Now, the great thing about this is you can also export it into Excel file so that you can upload it to your CRM. So a lot of folks that we work with, charity partners, have a system where they actually upload this on a weekly basis or bi-weekly to their CRM to make sure that data is accurate in their CRM as well. And so you get to have access to this right away so that you can actually continue the relationships with your donors. There's no delay at all. The other thing I wanted to show you is you can also see your recurring gifts. And the best part of it is that all the tax receipting is done by GiveWise. So every donor who gives through your Give Genius link will get their own tax receipt. It will be self-serve tax receipting. So you don't have to worry about that on the back end. And I think the last thing I will show you, just to showcase to you that we're really here to support you. If you have a system that's already in place, then definitely keep it. But if you don't, we have all of these features that are at your fingertips that we can support you in processing and providing your donors with tax receipts. And so if, you already have bank transfer and there's a system in place that works for you, you can deselect that so that it doesn't become available on your Give Genius donation tool. So that is what I wanted to show you there. And we'll get back to our presentation. Let's get back. All right. Well, as we wrap up, I just wanted to share with you 2 organization partners that are doing this very well. And I speak about them because these are 2 folks. So I'm going to start with WaterAid. This was an organization that we spoke to maybe a few months ago. Yeah, over the summer. And this organization had a great website, wanted to really streamline some systems for the back end in terms of processing securities. They have processed securities in the past, but it was just a lot for their team to do. And they really wanted something that would be easy, transparent, and would enable donors to give right from their website, get a tax receipt, so they didn't have to do all of that. And so they did exactly that. They added the Give Genius to their website. I'm going to show you quickly here. So if we look at their website right here, you go to donate. They did all of the recommended advice that I gave in terms of how to set it up to make it very easy for donors to navigate. So we have the credit card here, and if you scroll down, you have more ways to give. And in the middle, you have give through stocks, crypto, or donor advised fund, give via GiveWise. If you select that here, you'll see that they have a great page talking more about why to give and why giving these types of assets are the best, and then give now, and you can go straight to their page. So you see that they've using GiveWise for securities, donor advised fund transfer, and cryptocurrency, and some of the planned future gifts because it lightens the load for their team and their donor gets tax receipts right away. Now, the beauty of this, where this becomes really great is that since then, they've unlocked 4 securities. So donors have given 4 gifts of securities, over 100,000, totaling 100,000. So just to say that was something that was invisible to donors before, and we were able to make it very easy for them, but also for their team now to be able to process those very quickly. And then learning without limits is a capital campaign. So it's a capital campaign for a school that is being opened, and it's for a church. So it's in combination, it's in alignment with a church, and they are running this capital campaign. So they use Give Genius specifically for that as their infrastructure because it would make it easy for their donors for the capital campaign to get the receipts, give in any way that they really would like, and it wouldn't add more strain to the team. So if we go to donate here, you'll see they have a great page that talks about the generosity. So really connecting with their donors around the capital campaign. They mention GiveWise partnering as a donation processor, and they talk a little bit about each of the gifts and the tax advantages, right? Great way to also think about if you're doing big campaigns, like a capital campaign, and you need infrastructure and a system, you don't want to create any more burden for your team. We could be also that infrastructure. So those are just some examples I wanted to leave with you. And then we will, okay. And then just want to ask you, where would you rather spend your time? So I leave you with that question. I'm sure manual processes is not where you want to spend your time, or tracking receipts, managing multiple systems, or maybe you want to build more relationships with your donors, grow your impact, focus on the work that actually moves the mission forward. Of course, you're always going to have these tasks, but how do you optimize the tasks and the time? And so we really want support in that way. And this becomes possible when you simplify things, right? So lastly, when giving becomes simpler for everyone, so your team included, generosity grows. And that's what we want to do. We want to remove the friction and allow generosity to grow, allow things to flow. So really looking forward to hearing any questions that you guys might have and staying connected. I love to talk to charities every day. So please do, if you are a Canadian charity looking for some solutions on how to reduce the admin for your staff and make donating much more seamless, especially from your website, especially when it comes to asset-based giving, please connect with me. There is the QR code there, and you can also connect with me via email at charitysupport@givewise.ca. And that is all. So I think we can get to questions, and Tanis is going to help us with the questions.
Hi, everyone. I was in the chat responding to some of you, and hopefully we've captured these. I see a bunch coming in now. Thanks, Jessica. There were a few that came in during the session. They weren't so much questions, but they were comments. But I thought I would share because I'm sure a lot of people were thinking the same thing. So Tanya during the poll says, we're just getting started with donations, so learning really at this time. And I know that's what I thought. Maybe a question that could help people is for organizations that are getting started with fundraising or donation systems. What are the first steps that you would recommend them taking?
First steps, maybe I'm biased, but talk to me. Come speak with me, what you're doing. So you really want to, like, you're just getting started, like optimize that ways to give page. Figure out all of the ways that you are going to accept donations. And as I had shown you, right, and stats are showing, it's great. Credit card is great. It's very convenient, but having more ways other than credit card, specifically having securities, donor advised funds listed, speak about the ways to give as well. What I noticed with a lot of charities, even if they accept everything, and I say that in quotations, even if it's not put on their website at all. They don't speak about any other ways to give. And on the other end, we see a lot of donors say, I didn't give that way because it wasn't listed. I didn't know I could. It doesn't seem like they accept it. So I went somewhere else with that gift. Or I wrote them a check, but I have all of this, this money in my donor advised funds that I would love to have given, but it didn't seem like they had a process for that. So just be very clear on that. And it's great that you think about it ahead of time so that even if the worst thing is to hear, I don't have securities up there because nobody's ever donated a gift of securities to me. Be prepared for it, though. You have to say it on your website and have a process in the back end that you are prepared to accept it so that it doesn't take forever when it happens. Because we don't want your donor sends you a gift of security and it's taking 30 days or longer for you to actually get that. And there's back and forth in between. Like these processes can be really frustrating for both parties. So that's what I would say. So I would love to chat. We can connect and I can definitely share more.
That's great. Thanks, Jessica. Tanya, if you want to reach out to Jessica, I'm sure she would love to chat more about that. Thanks so much. Another comment from Melissa during the slide where we had how GiveWise donors are giving in 2025 with the stats. Melissa made a comment, a question about legacy giving and bequests on that slide. Where do they fit in the broader picture?
That's a good question. So we definitely work with financial advisors with that specifically, but it's not represented in those contributions on that slide. But we definitely have a process. And I also would love to encourage folks to look at our guide to GiveWise because we have some great information around methods of giving, and especially when it comes to bequests, cryptocurrency, real estate gifts, things that are a little more complex, right? Even though you see it on the website as an option, they're not something that you just click and it's done. They are a series of conversations, and we have that process on our guide to GiveWise.
Great, thank you. And to those of you, I put the guide to GiveWise link just in the chat there. Check it out. And question came in from Kevin. There's a few that came in just at the end here, so we'll go through those. What are the fees related to GiveWise?
It all depends. So I'm assuming as a charity, you're speaking as a charity partner. So we take a processing fee through, if you have the Give Genius button on your website, every donation that goes through that website is 1%. So every donor who donates through your donation tool, that would be a 1% fee that GiveWise will take to sustain our organization and the work that we do. And then there's a one-time fee of $500. We have a number of packages, but the starter package is a one-time fee of $500 to actually be onboarded. And then, as I mentioned, the 1% processing donation tool ongoing. And then there's, of course, for donors, because we also are a donor advised fund, but your donors can open up a donor advised fund free of cost, $0. But if their giving fund is over $25,000, then we also take a fee from those that are over $25,000. I hope that answers. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes, I haven't yet, but I'll put the link we have our fees listed on our website for donor advised funds, but then also, of course, anyone wanting to meet with Jessica, she can walk you through the options.
Please, I would love to meet folks.
Well, so make sure to book her. She's a joy to meet with.
Yes, and we can look through your ways to give page.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, we've got two other ones here. We'll go through. If anybody has any more, quickly pop them in. But we've got one from Manisha and Sandra. Manisha asks, manual process is not something where we want to spend time on. How does automatic system work when there is a lot of exceptions? Example, same donation is divided into two parts. One has value of advantage and other have not.
That's a good question. I'm just trying to read it. How does automatic system work when there's a lot of exceptions? Same donation is divided into two parts. Okay, I'm not quite sure about the rest of it, but I don't know if this answers it, but we have gift designations available on our platform. So if you want the donation to go to a particular campaign or a particular project, we do have that option. And we also have a space for your donor to, when they're initiating their donation, to submit their notes with it. So some folks will say, hey, I would like this donation to be split up in 5 parts to go to 5 different campaigns or projects that you have. So I don't know if that answers in terms of the automation. There is still a bit of manual in there, but I think the bigger picture automation is really that the tax receipts are taken care of and you have one system to see all of your donations, especially when it comes to the complex gifts. You have that charity portal where you can get all of that in one space, centralized space. Yeah, Manisha, if you do want to chat, please reach out and we can set up a quick time to chat more so I can get a better understanding and walk you through things.
Awesome. Thank you. And one more question here from Sandra is, can you sort the drop-down list of giving options and maybe talk about the flexibility of there, what they can show? And
Yeah, and you can definitely customize it, sort in terms of rearrange how they are sorted. Not at this moment, but we're hoping to do that. But if you do not want to have credit card on there, you can take it off. If you don't want bank transfer on there, take it off. You can, if you don't want estate gifts there, you can definitely take all of those things off and only use the ones that you're interested in having a system or process for. But when you say sort, I'm assuming you mean, hey, if I want securities, or let's say I want Plan a Future Gift at the top to be my top one, we don't have a sort like that. It's automatically sorted. So that's something we're working on, though. We're always working on the tech, always trying to enhance the tech. So anytime we hear something from a charity, we're like, okay, at one point, there was only a number of designations for charities. And now we're like, okay, some charities they want to be able to have their donors look at 80 different designations because they have 80 projects. And we're like, okay, let's make some enhancements there. So we're always listening to what you all have to say. So definitely. And I see something about the tax calculator.
yeah, it says, can the tax calculator be embedded on our website? That's probably one that I can answer here.
Yeah, that would be great. Add to that.
So that is something just recently we launched our GiveWise tax calculator. It's on our website and it's actually within the platform. So when donors choose ways to give and then they choose securities, we've created a tax calculator where they can toggle between cash and securities. And then you can see the tax savings between the two. So it's a really great visual aid, nice and quick. Donors can use it. Financial advisors can use it to show clients, charities, you can use it. The question was, can we embed it on our website? Great question. And as Jessica just said, we just launched this and we're just working on integrating it into our systems. So coming up next will be how others can use it. And that is actually one of the ways we're hoping is for other websites and charities to be able to use that as well. So stay tuned. At the moment, no, but there's a link and a URL that you can also share. But we're working, you can embed it right into your website as well. Yeah. I think that wraps all the questions.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And let's use this as our opportunity to bring it all back together. So, Jessica, I'm super grateful for you to come in once again and share your deep expertise on how people can make the giving process smooth and easy for people on all sides of that transaction. Candice, thank you so much for keeping the Q&A running beautifully, making sure the chat is running. With that, let's wrap it up, and I hope to see all of you for our next TechSoup Canada webinar